Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is day one of the Mastermind Expo. I am so blessed and excited. We are starting with Freedom Friday, and we've got Francesca Israel Sarai. She's going to be sharing with you about consideration. The reason why I wanted you to hear from Francesca is because this presentation on consideration changed my life about 4 years ago. It made me think about things differently. It made me consider how other people feel and their thoughts and their emotions. It just made me a better person. So, Francesca, we'd love to have you introduce yourself, share with us a little bit about your background, and then get us into consideration. So, thank you for joining us, and I'd love to hear from you.
Of course. Hello, everyone. So my name is Francesca Israel Sarai. I am very interested in letting you guys know about my theory on consideration. I've been talking about consideration, as Preston Harris has mentioned, for over 4 years now. We kind of came up with this theory, when we went down to Florida and we really kind of like chatted on the beach and was talking to a crowd of people about like how do you want to feel when you show up for work, how do you want to feel when you show up for your family, how do you want to feel when you show up to a church, how do you want to feel like when you go out in public, period. And what we discovered is what most people are dealing with is a lack of consideration, and also they're not considering others and other people's feelings. A lot of times we think we are, but we're not always truly giving people or treating people the way that we want to be treated. The Bible talks a lot about, loving thy neighbor the way you love yourself. So what does that look like? Like you'll find sometimes in the workplace, someone's collar might be up or something. And just kindly say, hey, your collar is up, when you know that they meant to put it down. Or, you see sometimes when people are at the club or something, they might have some toilet tissue on their foot as they're coming out the door, of the bathroom. And it's like, well, why would you just let a person just keep walking and not saying anything? And so, God really laid on my heart to start talking about like being more considerate. I've always been a really blunt person. I've always been a person to kind of just say what's on my mind. And so what God had to do for me was actually start introducing me to more people like me to realize how much I didn't like my own self, like I'm like, wow, that person just kind of blunted out or just blurted out whatever was on their mind, and a lot of times we think it's like very like, oh, I'm being firm, or oh, I'm, just letting people know how I feel today. But it's like, no, you were actually really obnoxious. You didn't consider how that person may have felt when you said what you said, and you don't know people's traumas. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, especially as we move into diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. And so some things you might say to a person may trigger their childhood, like, you never know what kind of abandonment issues or just different emotional health or mental health issues that you can be dealing with from a person. And so we see so much out in the community of all of these mass shootings and, sometimes the different domestic disputes or, violence between cops and, people out in the community. But do we think about, how do we show up? How do we speak to others? 9 out of the 10 confrontations or arguments start by the second word. My mother, as I was coming up and coming along, had a sign up in the house that said, it is the second word that truly starts the argument, which is so true. Just because someone says something to you, that does not mean you have to say something back. My spiritual sister in Christ, Karen, is always, such a strong instrument in my ear, always being like, you don't have to address that. You don't have to feel the need to say what's on your mind or to respond back to a text or to respond back to a call. Like if you're feeling anxious about something or something's making you feel uneasy, the Bible tells you to be angry and sin not. And the sinfulness actually really comes when you feel this anger that you just need to express. What you are supposed to do or what you should do is really take that time to really just like, you know what? let me meditate on what was just said. Because when people say things, sometimes it's deflection, but other times it may be constructive criticism. Like someone could be saying something to you that no one else has been bold enough to say. So opposed to immediately responding, I learned so often from my husband, like, let me just sit back. Let me just be quiet. Let me just be still. Let me just take this moment and just go to God and say, you know what, God, is there something I'm not seeing? Is this something that I'm not, that revealed to me what I may have said or did to another individual to make them respond or say this to me? And once you do that, when it's a healthy time, when it's a scheduled time, when it works best for both of your schedules, then you can address it. And sometimes we then have to say, is this relationship healthy for me? Is this relationship healthy for them? Is this a work based, client based, friendship? But you got to start categorizing people in your life to be able to start having healthy boundaries. My very first therapist slash friend slash board member laid something out there one day, as she was on an interview, and she said boundaries are not for punishment of the other person. It's for your own mental health. It's for your own mental safety. It's for your own mental stability. We have to find ourselves in a posture at all times of thinking about, like, WWJD, what would you do? Well, how do people perceive me? If I'm not on my A game when people see me, it doesn't make you weak. It just means that you're not being the best version of yourself. You should be showing up every day, loving your neighbor the way you love yourself. So if yourself, when you're waking up, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling irritable, then you need to step back and say, what do I have on my plate that is a negotiable? And what do I have on my plate that is a non-negotiable? Your spouses, your children, how you make your money is non-negotiable. That's how you take care of yourself. But some of the additional relationships, some of the other support groups or places where you might feel like some signs of irritability, frustration, irritability, you got to find yourself kind of saying, I may have too much on my plate this season. And that's another way not to just consider others, but start considering yourself. So today, I don't mean to stay with you guys too long. I really appreciate the opportunity, Preston, to really go into the topic of consideration. And if I can leave anything or press anything with everyone on this morning, it would be putting in these simple steps every day to not only consider yourself, but to consider others. First, when you text someone, you start off with good morning. That is something that, in the Northern culture, we don't always do. Me coming from the Washington, D.C. or the DMV area, I would text Preston or others in the South, and not have that Southern hospitality. And I had to learn it is rude not to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Anything past 5 o'clock can wait till the next business day if this is a business relationship. You should not be texting anyone or calling anyone after 5 p.m. That first, you want to consider people's boundaries. You want to consider people's home relationships. People could be running their kids around. And then also respect bereavement. Bereavement is a thing. If someone has lost a loved one or a friend or what have you, and they've put in like a bereavement leave or something, give people a moment to grieve. But also consider yourself in grieving, or, if you're dealing with a hardship or job loss or financial difficulty, give yourself a moment to say, you know what, I need to maybe go into therapy. So learn to consider yourself, learn to consider others, and then moving over to the second, those boundaries. Recognizing, like, hey, when you first meet people, it takes a long time to really get to know a person. So consider how fast you move in any relationship, making sure that you pray first when you first meet a person, when they say, hey, I would like to go into business with you, or I think that we would, this would be a great networking group. Consider, where do you actually want to be? Where do you actually want to go? What are your actual goals? And ask yourself, of this person, of this opportunity, or of this relationship, actually aligns with your goals and if you would be a good fit. Because when you make a commitment to any group or any person or any type of work relationship or actual relationship, that goes for boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses, or whatever, can you fit this into your life right now? Because if you can't, what ends up happening is that you're going to find yourself angry, or you're going to make the other person angry, and you're going to have these considerate conversations when you could have just avoided all of this by saying in the beginning, like, hey, it's not you, it's me. I'm actually in a cleansing and a purging part of my life right now. And as we enter into 2025, I would like to press upon you guys to say, let me take a moment to reflect. What's actually going to be different about me in 2025 versus 2024? Am I going to be the person that says yes to everything and anything at any time? Or am I going to be the person to actually consider what is God's purpose for my life? Who am I? What do I want to accomplish? Who is actually investing in me, and who am I actually investing in? And is there a ROI? My big sister Karen once again always says, like, what is actually the benefit of this? And not that you do things to receive a financial benefit, but is there actually any type of intellectual property that you're learning? Are you enriching your knowledge, or are you overextending yourself? So considering yourself more this year is what I believe is the third most important point before considering others. Because when you have the gift of helps and you're always helping others, you can just find yourself stretched. You can find yourself with wrinkles. You can find yourself with gray hair. You can find yourself on an operating table because you have a stroke. So make sure that you're feeling cleansed, peaceful, happy at all times, because being a cheerful giver is way better than being a grumpy Grinch giver. So before you can consider someone else, make sure that your home is in order, that your kids are happy, that your spouses are happy, and those in your inner court are satisfied. Is God satisfied with you? Then you move over into what's in your actual household. Then you move outside of your household to say, you know what, I think I have some room for charity today. I think I have some room for a support group. I think I have room for a mastermind. I think I have room for another activity. But if you don't, then find yourself in a space of considering others and yourself, because remember, commitments are important. And if you commit to something for 1 year, 6 months, or 3 months, make sure you do your best. That's it for me, and I'm signing out. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Francesca, thanks for joining us. That was part one of the Mastermind Expo. Francesca Israel Sarai talking to you about considering others, considering yourself, and that's so important for us to just consider and to take the time to do those things. We've got a number of different presentations throughout the day. Check the banner to know below. We'll be back at 11 a.m. We've got Kendra. She's going to be coming in talking about taxes and how to dominate your taxes. We got Mr. James McMorris talking about how we can save our seniors and some tips for people turning 65 who are 65 that they don't tell you. We've got Art of Winemaking. Shout out to Crystal Floyd. It's her birthday today, so if you want to do an in-person Art of Winemaking class in Atlanta, Georgia, you can do that today. And at 8 p.m., we've got the CMOS Depot. So we'll be here live all weekend. This is the Mastermind Expo. I'm your host, Preston R. Harris from VIP Socio, and we'll see you back here at 11 o'clock a.m. with Dominate Your Taxes, Kendra and Miriam. We'll see you soon. Peace.